Hi everyone, this is Jane for Outside Xbox. I've been playing Dead Space 3, so now I have a bunch of Dead Space 3 gameplay to show you, and I'm going to show you that and talk about what I've enjoyed and not enjoyed in Dead Space 3 to give you an idea of what the game is like and whether or not maybe you should pick it up. So, the essential moment-to-moment actual combat is strong in that it's very much like the actual moment-to-moment combat in Dead Space 2 and also in Dead Space 1. So yeah, I don't feel they've tinkered with this a whole lot in the series at all. It's still very much emphasising TK and stasis to conserve your ammo. It's still all about dismemberment, and who doesn't love dismemberment, really?
Guys, something's blocking the tram system.
Fatal op should be nearby. You can see the tracks from there.
Thanks, Buckle. I'll check it out.
So that's cool. As a Dead Space fan, I have enjoyed that a lot. What I've enjoyed less is the all-new weapon customization system. And it's not just because I hate microtransactions as a matter of course, and it's not that I don't like weapon customization, because in fact I think the idea of weapon crafting plays really well to the Dead Space fiction and Isaac Clarke being an engineer and being able to build weapons from scratch. But I feel like the way it's been implemented in Dead Space 3 is overly complicated, and that it's overly complicated because it's been engineered to allow for this layer of microtransactions that encourage you to spend real money to get resources to faster or better upgrade your weapons. Don't get me wrong, there are some really cool blueprints in there, but to be honest, I really enjoyed the way weapons were introduced in Dead Space 2, and each one felt distinctive and powerful. Whereas here you do a lot more tinkering and gathering parts and gradually upgrading this element or that element. And as a result, it doesn't feel like quite so much of an event when you get a new weapon. Also new is this guy. He is the Scavenger Bot.
Huh. Wow. An old Scavenger Bot.
He's pretty cute. But he's kind of there as an agent of this resource gathering, microtransaction fueling system as well. And to be honest, the way I use the Scavenger Bots is when I remember I've got one or two in my inventory. And so I deploy them when I remember, and then when I get back to a bench, it's gathered some resources for me, which is nice, but I could take it or leave it, to be honest. I don't think it's a great new addition to the series. I am more positive, much more positive, about the settings and locations. These are really good, and as a pleasant surprise, you don't spend your entire time on this ice planet, which in itself is fine. There's nothing wrong with Tal Volantis. I think it's a nicely rendered ice planet, but it is hard to avoid the Lost Planet 3 comparisons when you're fighting a giant snow crab with glowing weak points on the surface of an ice planet. And I'm not really into Lost Planet as much as I'm into Dead Space. So yes, good news, there is a lot of exploring hulking old derelict spaceships that are infested with necromorphs. And I think that's always what Dead Space has done best, to be honest. I think Dead Space really has a knack for those grimy, grotty, sci-fi locations that feel properly lived in, where awful things have happened to people and awful things are probably just about to happen to you. So it's a real pleasure to be playing several hours of that before you even get to Tal Volantis.
I'll get to that shuttle in aft section one way or another.
Obstruction cleared.
characters. Now, I'm not going to talk about story because I don't want to do spoilers on this occasion, but Isaac, he's still really strong. He's angrier and tireder and kind of haggard. In fact, you can see they've rendered him with under eye circles to show you just how sick of it he is. He's still really good. Ellie makes a return. Ellie from Dead Space 2, you might remember. I think she's less endearing in Dead Space 3 than she was in Dead Space 2. And on an unrelated subject, I think she got boobier. That might just be me. I think it draws the eye, but maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention in Dead Space 2, and she always looked like that. Oh, what is a nice touch, though, is if you look at her up close in cutscenes, at her face, that is, you can see one of her eyes is a slightly different colour to the other. And there's a reference in a text log to that. Ellie loses one of her eyes in Dead Space 2, and the text log tells you how she's had it replaced but couldn't quite afford to get exactly the same colour match in the other eye. Carver's new. I can't tell you a lot about him because I'm actually playing in single player at the moment. He doesn't appear a lot at all if you are only playing in single player because he's not there by your side. You are playing alone, not with an AI companion. I can't tell you a great deal about Carver. I can tell you about his boss, who you see here.
You made us come down here. You encouraged her.
He's a dick, basically. What I do like, and probably this is what I'm enjoying most of all about Dead Space 3, and those are the optional side missions.
Isaac, what is that horrible noise?
I think I pulled out something I shouldn't have. The gravity plating is tearing itself apart. The message is a warning to someone named Serrano on the planet's surface.
These are like little science fiction short stories just off from the main storyline. To me, they feel a little bit like exploring the old vaults in Fallout 3, in that they're self-contained stories in which you're retracing the steps of someone who's long gone and discovering the story of how something really horrible happened to them most of the time. So there you go, that was a little tour of Dead Space 3 in gameplay. Let us know if you've picked it up or if you're planning to pick it up. Thanks for watching Outside Xbox. Maybe hit subscribe if you'd like more videos from us.